So today was the day we took these trailers after being painted out into the light of day. Beautiful day for it, and everything seemed to go pretty well. Behind me, these are the second and third prototypes, I guess you could call them, for a mobile or a wheeled dwelling unit that the Center for Transformational Practice has been making to create emergency shelter for people experiencing homelessness. And it's kind of a companion project to other work that's going on in the community, both with regards to finding sites for them, host sites where they can stay, and also working with the state regulators to make it legal to sleep in a recreational vehicle, which is what these are classified as. When I show you what's inside, we've been finishing up some paint, linoleum, and baseboard. Take a look. On the inside, it looks a little bit more like a cabin, you can see that we've put down linoleum, drywall, and window, door. It's got the smoke detector and carbon monoxide notification. So these units that we've put out in the past, we generally use them with a twin narrow bed, that leaves room for some shelving, dresser, whatever. Okay, so this unit here was designed to sit 7 foot wide to accommodate a full-size bed. So that would make it potential housing for a couple, if that was necessary. This one over here is more for an individual. This is definitely a single, and it's tight at that. Yeah, this is an 8x8 unit, so it would be very. This would accommodate a twin narrow bed, but it leaves some room to move around. Main design constraint that we're working with is a lot of insulation. So this is a very, very well insulated structure, so you can heat them with a 350 watt heater if you're using electricity, or you can heat them with very small amounts, like low BTU units. Keep heat, cold heat, etc. In fact, you can even survive in them. So we've had people, get by just fine overnight with one person in them on a cold night, even just solo, just heating it with body heat. So in that regard, they have a lot over a conventional RV type configuration. So, I'll just say on the subject of heating, we did switch over to using a propane heater. A direct vented propane heater, which worked very, very well, very steady, low maintenance, relatively low cost to make that happen in comparison to, let's say, running a generator that would then run an electric heater. But both options will work in a pinch. This is a housing solution which is being put forward as a potential solution for the unsheltered, unhoused. So that's a sector of the unhoused population which is more institutionally averse, and that often finds themselves in tents or camping out. And here in Hartford, we've had a steady camping population, for as long as I can remember, and I will say growing population. So the projection is for that those numbers to increase, which is more or less the inevitable outcome of what we refer to as a 10,000 unit shortage, housing unit shortage here in the Upper Valley. We know if we're that many units short, some people are going to get squeezed out the bottom, and that's exactly what's happened. So this particular investigation and this solution and this experimentation is being put forward at this time because we are coming into the final months, hopefully months, not weeks, of the state hotel voucher program, which has been spending literally hundreds of millions of dollars housing people in hotels. It's merciful that that's been going on, and a lot of people were, many of whom I know very well, have been kept warm and dry in hotel rooms throughout Vermont. However, that money is scheduled to run out, and the difficulty with that problem is that it does not leave us with any enduring infrastructure once that money is spent. It is an unusual situation for the state of Vermont to find itself in, to have that degree of money that's come down from initially CARES Act funding and other federal dollars that have come to the state. But
that money is not going to last forever. Currently it's scheduled to sunset on the 1st of March. We imagine that's going to be extended, but a lot of people who are working in the case management and are aware of the overall situation with the unhoused community is bracing themselves for a very difficult transition, and something that I think will probably change the character of our communities quite dramatically on the day when that money does sunset and everybody says, okay, thank you very much, you've had your time here, and anybody left in the hotels is going to have to go. So there's a lot of work being done to find housing options for those people that will be enduring, but of course, 1,600 people remain, with on the books a couple of weeks left of the program. So that's a very serious situation, and that's part of why we're putting forward this potential solution. These units can be constructed for about $6,000 in materials and built with volunteer labor. They're very, very well insulated. They have a heating unit which is self-contained, and they provide warm, dry shelter that could last for 20 years. And we've seen from our own personal experience that this is a sufficient home base, stepping off place that people can make significant strides in their lives. We have one person dwelling in one of these units currently who is holding down a full-time job for the first time in years. And so we're proud of stories like that, and it's clear that once you have a place where you feel like you belong, and you have a place where you feel like you are not going to get told to leave, and you have a right to be there, that other things can fall into place, like for instance addiction recovery, or like for instance job, getting a vehicle, different types of relationship issues, all kinds of different necessities of life can begin to coalesce themselves around having a solid place to live.
So from a regulatory standpoint, the reason that we have the hitch and the wheels underneath it rather than just plunking a hut on the ground is that it comes down to the state of Vermont water regulations, and the state water regs do not have jurisdiction over an RV, which exists underneath the DMV, Department of Motor Vehicles Department. So for that reason, if this were just simply plunked on the ground with no wheels on it, and we would call it a cabin or a structure or a dwelling, it would need to be plumbed, and that requires either tapping into the municipal plumbing if you're in a developed area, or as most homes in Vermont, into a well and sewer. That's the question about how much does it cost to plumb them is sort of the same thing as the question of how much does it cost to build a house. People have been trying forever to figure out an inexpensive way to pull a roof over your head within the conventional housing type options, and as far as I can tell, it's not that easy. By the time you get your driveway sorted out and your electrical entrance and all of the other things that you need in order to get your certificate of occupancy, it's expensive. So that's related to why it is that we have the housing shortage that we have. So the state does not make a limitation on how long an individual or a couple or a family can stay in a recreational vehicle. Very interesting. Different towns fill in this and will have their own limitations. Some are more formal, like Hartford. Some are more just sort of, you're not allowed to stay in an RV at all. Some say you can stay in an RV for 14 days. In general, you can stay in an RV if it's parked at a registered campsite, but that's also has additional expenses to it, and it's not that easy to make a campsite. Yeah, these were built by volunteers, and it's worth mentioning that a lot of our volunteer crews focus on participation and collaboration with the occupants or with the unhoused communities come out. So there's been a pretty deep degree of collaboration around different types of housing units that we've used over the years. It's just a little bit of paint touch-up, and I think someone's going to come later today to work on that and put an inspection sticker on them, and then they're ready to go.